Welcome to day 4 of your 30-day Dental MBA, charting your destiny with strategic management. As you know in these tapes, I'm going to keep tricking you. Satisfaction equals perceptions of what's happening minus your expectations of what you thought were happening or thought was going to happen. When you came in for your cleaning, you're expecting Lori to clean your teeth. She's been cleaning your teeth for 4 years, and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, doctor fired her. Here's a new girl." You're not happy. You walk into McDonald's, you expect 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, cheese, onion, on seed bun. They say, "I'm sorry, today all we got is a horseradish bacon special." You're expecting to learn 5 or 6 things on day 3 that I wanted to teach you all the fundamentals of and leave you hanging so that you'd have to go to day 4. I'm going to do this for the whole 30 days, so just playing with your mind. But basically, what did we learn on day 3? That to build a winning team, you got to coach and train. You got to attract and retain. You got to motivate and lead, and you got to harvest and weed. That's my little poem, and it says it all. You got players in dental offices that aren't coached. You got a dentist who's so worried about how he's going to fill the root canal that none of the players even have job descriptions. They don't have incentives. They don't have rewards. If they do anything bad, they're not even punished. You got to attract and retain the best. You got to tolerate diversity. You got to motivate these people and lead them. And gosh darn it, if they haven't got if they're not shooting 85% of their free throws, you harvest and weed, okay? And let me tell you another thing about a competitive industry like the NBA, or football's a better one. Just because you won the Super Bowl doesn't mean even a thing that you're going to come back and win the next year. How many teams have you seen win the Super Bowl, and 1 or 2 years later, they're not even in the playoffs, okay? Look at the San Diego Chargers. What was that all about? You know what I mean? There they were, the big show, and you didn't even hear of them the year or 2 after. Your players, unlike the NBA and the NFL, which are all big bronzed mule alpha bull elephants, you're an occupation mostly dominated by females. What are the top 7 occupations most dominated by female workers? Dental assistants makes it 79%, child care workers 97%, registered nurses 93%, telephone operators 90%, data entry keyers 84%, elementary teachers 83%, librarians 79%. What are the bottom 7 occupations most dominated by female workers? Auto mechanics, 1.2%. Carpenters, 1.3%. Pilots, 1.4%. Office machine repairer, 3.7%. Welders, 5.0%. Gas station attendant, 5.8%. Dentists, 13.7%. Telephone installers, 13.9%. There's always going to be demographics are going to tell you more about what's going to happen than anything else. In fact, look at the global planet. The average American, finding males and females, averages to live to be 74 years old. Average Earthling, 46. Being born in America, on the average, gave you 21 more years of life, and you had nothing to do with it. Actually, no, that's 30 years, isn't it? What's 74 minus 40? 74 minus 46, that's 28 years. Now, did you have anything to do with being born in America? If you would have been born in Bangladesh, average person lived 46. I just went down to Mexico on a missionary dental trip. 5,000 Chiapas Indians on dirt floors. Oldest person in the village was 45 years old. You went to the cemetery, half the graves were children under 3 years old. And read good stuff. I know this is a little late to be telling you about Stephen Covey, but the guy's still a genius. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You've heard all this stuff a million times, but read his book, reread his book. Be proactive. Take the initiative and the responsibility to make things happen. Begin with the end in mind. That's Thomas Watson. Where do you want to see your dental office when you're 65? Start with a clear destination to understand where you are now, where you're going, and what you value most. Number 3, put things first. Manage yourself. Organize and execute around priorities. Number 4, think win-win. See life as a cooperative, not a comprehensive arena where success is not achieved at the expense or exclusion of success of others. That's what he's talking about in thinking in abundancy. Don't think scarcity. The best example of that was with Macintosh. Macintosh thought of scarcity, that they wouldn't let anybody use their operating system. They wouldn't let anybody make their machine. They were so protected they lost the market. Bill Gates is a billionaire because he thought abundancy. He says, I'll let anybody see my code. I'll let anybody program to it. We're thinking open system, abundancy, think win-win, think growing the pie. Don't worry that you got a pie with 6 slices and somebody's going to come get 3. Think about if that pie was twice as big, your 3 would equal your original 6. Number 5, seek first to understand. Understand, then be understood to build the skills of empathetic listening that inspires openness and trust. Number 6, synergize. Apply the principles of cooperation, creativity, and value differences. Tolerate diversity. You're an introvert geek dentist. Hire some gregarious 300-pound, 60-year-old receptionist with a gold chain on her glasses that loves people that if you taped her mouth shut, she'd fart to death. That's your best receptionist. Just because you're a geek, don't hire a bunch of introvert geeks that are a bunch of suck-up yes people saying whatever you want. You want staff that are extrovert. You want people persons. Have you ever done a root canal in your life where when the root canal was over, a patient said, "Excuse me, I'd like to see the PA of that root canal. I want to make sure you found all the canals, got to the bottom, had it all cleaned out, taper, filled it, obturated." Have you ever done a crown where they want to see the bite wing to see if your crown was cemented all the way? Have you ever even had a patient ask an intelligent question? I mean, one time, my waiting, I put all my plaques and diplomas in the waiting room because why should they be in your private office? No one's selling me but myself. I got to put it in my waiting room. And a patient came back one day and said, "I saw you graduated from the University of Missouri in Kansas City." I thought, oh man, they value that. They realize that how great a school it was and how great and awesome it was. And I said, yeah, that's right. And he goes, "My sister's roommate's brother married a guy from Kansas City." I mean, even if you think they're going to ask an intelligent question, it comes out stupid. And number 7 on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, renewal. Preserving and enhancing your greatest asset, yourself, by renewing the physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional dimensions of your nature. I mean, think positive, and read good books. I really love the book Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher and William Ury. And Getting to Yes, the 3 basic categories of people problems are perceptions, emotions, and communication. Satisfaction equals perceptions of what they think just happened minus expectations. Most people's yardsticks are made up as they go. It's emotional. It's kind of like the Bible. Look at the Bible. I've read this thing front to back 3 times. You tell me what you want to believe and I'll find you a quote. People who say, well, I found this in the Bible. I can find this is good or this is bad for almost any argument you can think of, especially if you read some of the Old Testament stuff that gets pretty vaguely worded, some wild stuff. People deal with emotions. They're on an emotional level. And you got to communicate. Number 3, remember, it's not what you say, it's how you said it. It's not what they heard, it's how they filtered it. You have to implement consumerism. Stuff like the basics. I mean, just the basics. If you go to Walmart and spend $1 on anything, it's going to come with instructions and a brochure. You buy a Sony Walkman, instructions, brochure. Anything you open up, first thing mom says, where's the instructions? What's the only thing you talk about Christmas morning? You're buying a bunch of junk toys made from the other side of the world, and every son of a gun toy, a little toy, comes with an instructions and a warranty. If you don't like it, you take it back. No questions asked. They take it back, give your money back. I want an instructional sheet with every procedure. These consumers go home all day long. Their spouse says, well, honey, when can you eat on that filling? And they're like, oh, I don't know. He didn't tell me anything. And it cost a fortune. He's only in there 2 minutes, and he didn't tell me nothing. And we preoperative videotape, instruction sheets, consent forms, home care instructions, every procedure. It's all communication, communication, communication. And the thing I like about I won't do a root canal until they watch G. John Schoffel's Dentistry 2000 video consent form. Gordon Christian's got the best ones, patient educations. He's got one, a patient education series to explain about fillings, crowns, root canals, wisdom teeth, everything there is. Rella Christian makes a great one about explaining home care instructions. But it's just when you say, here, look, here's the system, assistants. I'll go in there and, I'll do the diagnosis, but I'm not going to come in there until you've explained how much it's going to cost. You wrote it down in writing, she signed it, and she paid her portion, or if she doesn't have insurance, all of it. You go to McDonald's and you order a hamburger. The 16-year-old high school dope-smoking, tattooed, pregnant welfare Democrat says it'll cost you $1.50. You give them $1.50, then they give you the hamburger. Everybody in the world, you give the order, they take the money, they give you the product or service. Only in healthcare do you go and you take the order, you give them the hamburger, they eat it, they chew it up, they take it home, they defecate it 3 days later, and then a month later they get a bill, and then you're wondering why your account receivables are more than last month's production. So basically, everything's a system. I'm preparing my Today's Dental. I want that thing to at least last 50 years after I do. I mean, if I can't get the mortar, brick, computer, instruction sheets, job description, if I can't build my Today's Dental to at least outlast me by 50 years, then it sure as heck isn't running right today. And all these little systems make it so, you know, if you trip and fall once, you caught it somewhere else. If I say you have to have a preoperative videotape before we do, you know, if we're going to do a filling, you got to watch the Gordon Christian's tape on a filling first. A root canal, the tape first. And then if the assistant has to give the instruction sheet, and they have to have a warranty, if the receptionist is going to come in with the financial arrangement written down, what it costs, the patient signs it, and then she also gives them the consent form to sign it, and the instruction sheet and the warranty. Basically, by the time they walk out, hopefully they got 2 instruction sheets from the front office and the back. Hopefully they got 2 warranties, one from the front and the back. That way, if someone trips and falls down, someone else caught it. Okay? And always give out your entire walkout statement saying everything that was done, the cost incurred, in your high-quality, great service family practice dental office. It's just, in fact, everything I do actually takes the brain the size of a pea floating in coffee. I bet if you wired my brain up to a parakeet, it couldn't fly, okay? Everything I do is a no-brainer because I want this thing to work when I'm dead and my brain's gone and rotted and worms ate it, and these systems are still going. So it's not about I'm saying something you can't comprehend. You're just sitting there wondering why you aren't motivated to do it. And a lot of it's incentives. You know, when the average dentist makes $122,000 a year, average specialist makes $192,000 a year, you're not hungry. My dad always said, if you show me 5 hungry hyenas, someone's going to get killed and eaten. Problem with doctors, dentists, and lawyers is once you start making $100,000 a year or more, you're just not hungry, and you just don't care, and you'd rather, oh, the hell with Friday, I'm going golfing, and I'm not giving my home number, I don't want anybody to bother me, tonight we're going to a concert, we're going out to eat, we're going to go bowl, we're going to go whatever. So the very successful people, they're not doing it for money, they're doing it because they love the game. It's kind of like Michael Jordan. You take him off a golf course, or you take him off a basketball course, that same game competitive skills comes out in golfing, or we hear about gambling, and it's the love of the game, not the money. I mean, the guy's got more money than he'll ever know how to spend. It's just simply the love of the game, and that's what you got to do. You got to love your work. If you hate your work, it's either a bad attitude or a bad job. And you can find out if it's a bad job by asking yourself, is this industry flying into a headwind? I mean, am I basically like a broker who's going out of business? I'm going to be replaced where the electronic data information computer is going to go right from the producer to the store and bypass a middleman? Or is my industry suffering or being helped by a tailwind? And dentistry is in a massive tailwind. It's being launched ahead of the CPI. You're not making buggy whips where everybody's sitting around saying, you know, in 5 years you'll be out of business. You're not in a business like 8-tracks or vinyl records where they're saying, well, I'm sorry, but there's a CD and there's digital recording and you're going to be out of here in 5 years. Your health care has gone from 4% of the economy to 14% of the economy. You're in a massive tailwind. So love the game. If you hate dentistry, it's probably a dysfunctional, unhealthy attitude. Managers, the second smartest man in the world, or second richest man in the world, Warren Buffett, I actually believe, is probably, as far as investments, the smartest man in the world. Bill Gates is probably the most smartest technology person in the world. But Warren Buffett says that managers are stewards of shareholder capital. The best managers think like owners in making business decisions. First-rate managers will tell it like it is, or at least as they see it. That's the culture, the strategy that you've got to cultivate. That they are making decisions based on a lot of capital tied up in your dental office. They have to think like owners. Well, how does an owner think? An owner thinks, if this dental office does $500,000 this year and it has $300,000 overhead, I'll put $200,000 in my back pocket. Well, why doesn't your staff think like that? Because you pay them hourly. When you pay them hourly, they act like employees. All employees act like employees because they're all designed to be employees. I don't hire any employees. I don't like employees. I never want employees. Every one of my employees is an entrepreneur who acts like an owner because we do wage-weighted profit sharing. And what that is, we do all open accounting. Every month they get to see every check written. They see all the money collected from the SoftDent reports. They see all the Peachtree accounting reports. The only thing we don't show them is what each individual pays, because back to emotions, you know, that you can do that with male athletes, but you're not going to do that with, you're not going to do that in healthcare. I'll tell you that right now. If you're dental assistants, you got two dental assistants and one finds out that the other one makes 50 cents more an hour than her, they might not ever talk again. I mean, it's too emotional. So what you do is we lump the dental assistant together and we call that dental assistant, paradental labor. We lump all the front office together and call that front office labor. And then hygiene, and they know that hygienists make 33% of what they produce, and dentists get 25% of what they produce. And when I'm in there, I am a dentist, but I'm also the owner, okay? So you can't peanut butter and jelly your accounting. So think of it as a restaurant. If I owned a restaurant that did $1 million a year, and I was the cook, and I got tired of cooking, that doesn't mean I sell off my restaurant. I would replace my cooking skills with a chef. And if I would replace myself with a chef for $60,000 a year, then I would have to say that if I made $100,000 of profit out of this restaurant, but I replaced, that was when I was in there working, but when I replaced myself as chef, the chef cost $60,000, then I could say that $40,000 of my income was profit from the capital employed in this restaurant, and $60,000 was the opportunity cost of being a chef. Dentists always peanut butter and jelly mix that up. And that's another reason they have a hard time doing profit sharing. Now, we know in all the major metros that you can hire good, high-quality dentists all day long for 25% of production if 25% of production is 25% of something. If it's nothing, then usually they're paying 40%, because most people have to be given 40% of nothing before it looks better than 25% of something. My associates last year made anywhere between $145,000 was the low and $167,000 was the high, and they get paid 25%. Every dentist that says, really, I don't think that's a very good deal, I get 40%. We say, yeah, well, show us your W-4, your 1040, show me your IRS statement, and they're making $85,000 a year. And I say, well, yeah, if you're going to get paid a percentage of nothing, you should ask for 40%. Hell, you should ask for all of it, because look, your check's little. 25% of something is twice as value as 40% of nothing. And when I'm in today's dental, I was in there on, what it was today? Today's Thursday. Wednesday I saw MTS. Tuesday was the last day I worked. I did $7,400 that day. That's just me, not the hygienist or whoever else in there. My $7,400, I get paid 25% of that. Okay, that's the opportunity cost of me by having a dental degree and doing dentistry. Now, the business also made profit. But what I do with that profit is I take a significant chunk of that profit and I weight it back for payroll. Say my total payroll, let's just use easy numbers to understand. Say my total payroll was $10,000 for a payroll period. And I had $2,000 of profit, and say I want to give half the profit back weighted on payroll. I take $1,000, divide that into the $10,000 of payroll, and I'd say, okay, based on your payroll, for every dollar you get a dime profit sharing. And the profit sharing comes in a separate color check and a separate color envelope with a printout of all the checks written. That way, people know that basically there's two ways to double your profit. You increase collection and you decrease expense. It's separating the line. When you don't have an incentive to separate the lines, like say if you just pay a percentage of production, now they drive production out of total disregard for cost. It's not just driving production, it's about driving down expense. Remember, one eye on expenses, one eye on the customer, right? Two eyes, one on the customer, one on expenses. And the customer is looking for best product and best service, and without them knowing it consciously or unconsciously, everyone's looking at best cost. And that's the ball game right there. One eye on cost, one eye on best product, best service. Best products, continuing ed, best services, best staff, and best cost control is when you have profit sharing. And when you have every one of your staff on profit sharing, you have no employees. You have 31 entrepreneurs working in my entrepreneurship, and they all think like owners of capital. Why? Because they're in charge of managing that capital. And what happens if they get a good return on that? They get a chunk of it back. The three major differences between the CEO and other employees, according to Warren Buffett. And you got to read his book, The Essays of Warren Buffett, Lessons for Corporate America, by Lawrence Cunningham. He says that, number one, the standards for measuring a CEO's performance are inadequate or easy to manipulate, so a CEO's performance is harder to measure than that of most workers. No one is senior to the CEO, so no senior person's performance can be measured either. A board of directors cannot serve the senior role since relations between the CEO and boards are conventionally congenial. And what is this saying here? It's tough. The only way I can manage my office manager, my bookkeeper, all 31 employees, I can't be standing in the hygienist's room watching her every move. And W. Everett Deming says, get rid of this, where somebody's standing behind you and monitoring you. I can't be up there receptionist, seeing if she's on the phone talking to her boyfriend or spending time with people in the waiting room. So what do? The only reason you care is because of the incentive. You own the company. Profit, that's your reward. That's why you make high-quality decisions. And you see the score, you see the accounting, you see the accounting reports. Every dental office I go into, I say, give me the last 3 months' accounting reports. Give me your statement of income, your statement of cash flow, and your balance sheet. And the dentist can't find 2 out of 3. He doesn't even know what a statement of cash flow is. He doesn't even know what a balance sheet is. So he comes back with the P&L, profit and loss, statement of income. And I said, and then I go out and there's 5 staff members at the break room and said, how many people have ever seen a P&L in this office? Nobody's hands goes up. I asked him, how much do we have to collect each day just to pay the bills before we even enter the profit zone? They have no freaking clue. And then you want to know why they all act like employees and make low-quality decisions. Hell, they can't see the score. They're blind. If they do see the score and they make higher quality decisions for a bigger incentive reward, they don't get any part of it. And then you're standing around wondering why everybody acts like an employee. You know, we're entering a new world. The new world will need banking, but not banks. We'll do it on the internet. We'll need books, but not bookstores. I bought most of my books Amazon.com. We'll need groceries, but not grocery stores. You already got grocery stores delivering your groceries. They're already buying it. In fact, there's already Bash's grocery store in the valley here to deliver your groceries. Hell, you can pull up your own deal and find out what you ordered last time and say, oh my gosh, you're right, I'm out of that. We'll need to travel, but we won't need travel agencies. The new dental world. We'll vaccinate dental decay, but we'll still need dentists for cosmetics, braces, bleaching, bonding, veneers, cleanings, hygiene. But the disease, the need part of the periodontal disease, we'll vaccinate periodontal disease, but we'll still need hygienists. We'll get rid of the bugs that eat teeth and the bugs that eat gums, but we'll still need cleaning for cultural reasons. Just like, we don't have lice and ticks, but that doesn't mean mama doesn't want to go mousse up her hair or bleach her hair or color her hair. We'll eliminate dental disease, but we'll still need cosmetic dentistry, implant dentistry for trauma and car wrecks, and we'll still need, it'll go from a needs-based industry to a wants-based industry. Look at the major banks. Talk about corporate strategy. Everything's getting bigger. You got Citicorp and Travelers, as the year 2000, sitting on $780 billion in assets. Bank of America and Nations Bank, $600 billion. Chase, $400 billion. J.P. Morgan, $260 billion. First Union, the money store, $260 billion. Bank One in First Chicago, $220 billion. Wells Fargo, Northworth, $190 billion. What you're going to find is that these big banks, someone's going to take the lead, and they're going to go through your management information system, and it's going to be down to a 3-horse race on management information systems. It's going to be either a Soft Dent, which is owned by John Miles Dent Supply in York, Pennsylvania, or it's going to be Dentrix, owned by Stan Bergman in Maryville, New York, Henry Schein Sullivan, or it's going to be EagleSoft, owned by Pete Frichette's Patterson up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, or number 4 could be the Practice Outlook right here in Phoenix, those are about the only 4 systems that I see that I really like. And as soon as one of these big banks, who will be coast to coast, is going to walk in there and realize that in America, in the last 10 years, if you made a purchase that cost over $1,000, it was financed 80% of the time. 80% of all purchases over $1,000 are financed in America. The number 1 enemy in dentistry today. It's not insurance. Quit. These people that just walk around, all they do is gripe about Delta and all this. I have more dentists whining to me about Delta. I'll say, well, okay, dentist. Well, how much did what's the name of your, what state are you in? Arizona? Okay, the Arizona State Dental Association. How much insurance did they sell last year? None. Okay, none, and you gave them $1,000. Delta sold, what did they sell last year? Some $10 billion of dental insurance, and all you got to do about them is complain and whine? Well, the ADA, they collected $89 million in revenue last year, and they're never going to ever try to explain why 45,000 active licensed dentists in America are not members. But you know what? After collecting $89 million, you give these guys $1,000, they don't sell $1 worth of insurance. Delta goes out and sends $10 billion, and all you want to do is throw a Molotov cocktail through their window, and you bitch and complain and bitch and complain. Insurance is basically trying to finance dental needs. People who have problems, they don't have the money, they need cleanings or fillings or extractions or whatever, but the one side of dentistry, for the ortho, the implants, the bleaching, the veneers, the number one corporate strategy problem in America is that you go up there and say, ma'am, you need 10 veneers, it's $7,000, I need it all right now. Well, hell, if General Motors tried to sell a car like that, they'd contract probably 2/3 in size. 80% of all purchases over $1,000 in the last 10 years were financed. And you've got basically banks, and the top 7 banks have over $200 billion in capital, and we will have the first $1 trillion bank by the year 2001. It's going to be Citicorp or Bank of America. And Chase and JP Morgan will be right behind him. And I'm telling you, if Citicorp or Bank of America would merge with Bank One or Wells Fargo right now, they'd be sitting at $1 trillion level, coast to coast, and they will walk into Henry Schein Sullivan's Dentrix or Patterson's Eagle Soft or Dent Supplies Soft Dent, and they'll say, hey, let's wire this thing up so that when you go in there and present the treatment plan, instead of saying you need a root canal, build-up and crown, 2 fillings, a cleaning and bleaching and ortho, and the price is $15,000, give it to me now, you'll walk in there and say, ma'am, to have all this services provided, you'll have to sign here, and this bank, Citicorp's going to bill you $110 a month for 60 months. And the Americans will say, oh, you mean I get all my teeth fixed up for just $110 a month for 5 years? They'll say, exactly. It was Alfred Sloan who pulled the rug out of Ford. Remember, when Ford started, he had 70% of the market, and Alfred Sloan took over GM, and before Sloan retired, GM was 3 times larger than Ford, and the first thing Alfred Sloan implemented was 2 things. Market segmentation, where we're not going to try to shove a black car down everybody's throat. We'll have 5 different market point cars, Chevy, Pontiac, Olds, Buick, and Cadillac. But we're not just going to walk to the market and try to sell them a car and empty out their wallet. We're going to finance it. And he said GMAC financing will make more money than GM. And guess what, buddy? It's the year 2000, and GMAC financing makes more money financing the car than GM does selling it, because the car is basically a commodity. Financing is where all the money is. And here we are in the new millennium, the year 2000 and beyond, and dentistry still doesn't have a major bank through a major management information system presenting fees other than swallow this hook, line, and sinker, and then they wonder why Americans can't do it, and so then they get mad at Delta, which is, it's popular on the lecture circuit to say that, but you got if you don't precisely define the argument, it comes off more as demagoguery. The Second Curve by Ian Morrison is an extremely interesting book, talking about how we're in a new transition. Where in the last transition, the first curve, it was all about capital. Whoever had the most money, the investment capital, went the farthest. The Rockefellers, the Carnegies, all these guys. It took money to make money. You remember the old days, 1950, it takes money to make money. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, now that's gone. It's more about knowledge. It's gone from the producer who had all the power in the first curve, now it's the consumer. It used to be the power was in the Atlantic, now it's in the Pacific. It used to be everybody had their eye on Japan, now it's China. It used to be international trade was the deal, now it's electronic trade. It used to be physical trade, now it's commerce. It used to be computers, now it's the internet. It used to be about money, now it's about people. The virtual enterprise today is simply you have your customer suppliers, which is your supply chain, and basically you got your customers on the other end, and your suppliers are coming in the back door giving you goods and services, and you use that to turn customers walking in the front door needing optimal oral health services, and you transform them into people who have high quality gums and teeth and cosmetics, etc. And to really understand what's going on, you need to go get more help out of your suppliers. In the olden days, everybody thought that the way you cut cost is you get a purchasing agent. You just sit there and fight with your suppliers, because every time a supplier came by, you hang onto your wallet and you try to yell and scream back and forth and try to get the lowest bid. Sam Walton was the one that showed that if you treat your suppliers like that, he'll kill you, and he did. Sears treated their suppliers like that. They had a very confrontational attitude with their suppliers going back in the 60s and the 70s. Sam Walton, first thing this guy did, here's Sam Walton, died with $29 billion in the bank. Considered in MBA school probably the smartest businessman that ever lived. Because remember, when he started Walmart, Sears, Gibson's, TG&Y, and Kmart, and JCPenney were already coast to coast. So before he even opens his first store, Sears, Gibson's, TG&Y, Kmart, JCPenney, coast to coast, he starts a store in Rogersville, Arkansas. And before he dies, he put Woolworths out of business. Sears was in a free fall for a decade, still trying to find themselves and recover. Smartest man in the world, businessman, died with $29 billion. And what's amazing is how the smartest man in the world came from Arkansas, which is a state where the dumbest man in the world came from. I think that's purely mind-boggling that the smartest and the dumbest person would come out of the same state. And what did Sam Walton say? He said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to implement a computer, and every time a customer buys an item, I'm instantly going to beam that information via satellite. This is a hick from Arkansas in the late 50s, early 60s, buying the first bandwidth available on the nation's satellite system. And the satellite producer's like, who the hell's this hick out of Arkansas? Wasn't part of our satellite capacity. And what was he doing? When you walked into Walmart and you bought a Barbie doll, he beamed the information from his 18 stores down to headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas, but he also beamed it to the supplier. That way, he said, it's all about perfect information and a long-term relationship. He says, the Barbie doll manufacturer has to know minute by minute, day by day, how many we're making, so they can plan better, so they know when to go to overtime or no, stop doing overtime because they haven't sold any Barbie dolls for 2 weeks. He said, I don't want some salesman to come by and say, oh, do you want to buy a trainload of Barbie dolls? We say no. So he starts being stupid and saying, well, okay, I'll run a special. I'll give you 2 train cars for the price of 1. And he said, that, we're not going to do business this way. We're going to all have open books, open communication, open information so that everybody can see the score, so everybody can make higher quality decisions based on the incentives. You wouldn't come offering me 10 Barbie dolls for the price of 5 if you know I didn't need 1. And then if you came here with 10 Barbie dolls to sell me and I needed 20 and you only had 10, then I'm losing sales. People are walking in here, and he called that a stock out, where people walk in there and say, yeah, Sam, I'd like to buy a Barbie doll. Oh, I'm sorry, we're out. Yeah, no, the suppliers don't have perfect information. Every time they come, we haggle back and forth like we're back in the Ottoman Empire and I'm meeting you on the Nile River. I mean, this is retarded. It's all about perfect information, seeing the correct score. Same thing with your sundries. You sit there and you have a sundries rep. My gosh, these guys, this is two-way communication. This is basically when these people come in, you have a monthly sundries account with them. You can leverage that relationship. Why would you buy a car from the, why will GM, Ford, and Chrysler not sell you a car at the end of the assembly line? Because they know, and because you're sitting there saying, well, it'll be cheaper. Well, the 3 big automakers know that by going through a dealer, it adds about 27% cost to the auto industry. But why don't they get rid of that 27% cost and sell direct? Because they know today you paid $20,000 for a new Ford Taurus, and there will be a day, as sure as you're sitting there listening to this, that day that car is going to be thrown away. So managing your expectations about what a new car should do, if something falls apart, will we warranty it? The dealer network is just like, remember the coach has a GM and the players have a coach and the communications between the coach and the GM. The Big 3 makes a car, but you go through your dealer. The dealer's the person who manages the relationship. If there's a warranty or a problem or whatever, you go back in. It's a long-term relationship. And if they do that relationship right, you'll buy, the average American has 8 cars in their lifetime. The average dentist has 5 cars during their career, 3 homes during their career, 4 homes in their lifetime. But the deal is, you got to manage that relationship. I ask for a lot from my suppliers. I wouldn't buy an intro camera through a catalog. What, you saved $1,000? There's a day where that camera will be thrown away. And if I got somebody coming into Today's Dental every month looking for a $10,000 sundry bill, and I want to buy my cameras through that person, Or my microabrasion through that person? Or my practice management software for that person? That way, if I'm upset that my intraoral camera light bulb burned out and they told me it'd be 2 weeks to fix it, and my autoclave's not working, and my developer's not working, and my software is upside down, this person's going to be hopping because I'm leveraging the whole relationship. He or she is going to lose $10,000 a month if I feel like my expectations were not met. And in fact, actually, I even told some of those sundries companies, when they started looking at buying Dentrix and buying EagleSoft, I said, whoa, my God, the average dental office gets new software every 5 years. You're ready to risk the entire sundries relationship for a one-time sell of a $5,000 practice management software? But these guys, they knew that. They knew it for years. That's why they waited so long. And that's why I think those three companies, SoftDent by Dentsply, Patterson's EagleSoft, and Shine's Dentrix will be the rule, because these guys are so paranoid about that. You walk in any of those three companies, and you'll see like 30 programmers just program away. You go into all the other companies, there's like one programmer. And the reason these guys got 30 programs, because they want an electronic link to your office. That's what they're buying. They see the software as a distribution channel that someday you'll be ordering over your computer, over the internet. They want the distribution of the electronic superhighway, and they're not taking it lightly. That's why they got all the programmers on it. They're all thinking about how are we going to do GMAC financing. Could you imagine if you had SoftDent computer and a person needs a root canal bill and crown $1,600, and you type it out, and you type out fee today, 1 year financing, 3 year financing, and 5 year financing. You walk back to Miss Jones, say, Miss Jones, you want to give us $1,600 a day, or do you want to give us $100 a month for 2 years, or $75 a month for 3 years, or $50 a month for 5 years? And she goes, oh, I'm having some tough times. I certainly don't want to throw my tooth away, but I think I've only got $50 a month. That's how you sell dentistry. That's the corporate strategy. The two rules of competition are, the two common reasons for losing are not knowing you're competing in the first place and not knowing with whom you're competing. Consultants cannot send you a large bill unless they have established they have a large problem. The only complaint I have with all the consultants, even in my office, the last consultant I have in my office, don't want to say her name because I love her to death, Sally. And I swear, she's been coming in year after year after year. I'm up to $200,000 a month. After the first diagnosis, she says, whew, it's a good thing you had me here. Your whole hygiene department's a disaster, and yada, 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 yada. And I'm like, Sally, whoa, slow down. The average guy's doing $300,000 a year. I'm doing $2.4 million. You're telling me I have this big nightmare. It's just always a tendency for consultants. They're going to close their sale by convincing you have a large problem. I just had another dentist walk back and say, for every new patient you get a month, you should be averaging $2,000 production. So if you get 20 new patients a month, your office should be doing $40,000 a month. And we're only doing $20,000 a month with 20 new patients. And I said, so what, 50%? You think the consultant would have given you a benchmark where you said, oh, hell, we're perfect. We don't need a consultant. All consultants, part of their hook of getting to come in is to convince you that you have a big problem. They convince you have a big problem, you'll pay a large bill, you'll bring them in. Get past that hype salesman crap. All consultants, I've never had a consultant in my office that wasn't a return on my investments. Never happened. And the only way I got to $2.4 million a year, because anybody and everybody and anything that thought they knew anything about dentistry that would come in for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, $30,000 and tell me what they think's right or wrong. I'm the final judge, but I heard them all out. And so think growing the pie. If you did $400,000 last year, if you don't have $4,000 or 1% to invest in to have some consultant come in, poke their nose around, a lot of the reasons you don't have consultants, and it's a return on the investment. In fact, McKenzie Management, which is publicly traded, open books, you can see their own facts. The average consultant, consulting evaluations show that overhead can be reduced by 5 to 10% merely through efficient protocol. The average consultant you take almost any goal you're chasing economically, like more production, more collection, less account receivables. Every one of these people can make a 5 to 10% improvement, usually in a 1 or 2 day consulting deal. And I just do not. Do you think for a minute people like Bill Blatchford and Jennifer D. St. George and Hugh Dougherty and Deborah Englehart and they just go on and on and on. Kathy Jamison, Sally McKenzie, Rick Kirshner. I mean, there's so many of them, so many good ones. I hate to, Linda Miles, Imtiaz Manji. Who am I missing? Jim Pride. Gosh, I mean, there's just a Bill Rossi. He's one of the best. Dave Runkle. You really think Patrick Wall is great with accounts receivable? You really think these people would have the reputation they do and be in a small little aquarium called dentistry for decades and not selling a good product or service? That's about the same amount of likelihood that you'd be in business for 20 years when every tooth you touched died and was abscessed and pulled the following week. They use models. And Robert Lucas Jr., who's my favorite Nobel Prize-winning economist, explains that at the close of World War II, South Korea was less than twice as well off as India. By 1980, Korea's income was 4 times higher than India. With such a range of experience, why do we need theoretical models? Why not simply use success stories like Korea's models? Why can't India simply send a fact-finding delegation to Korea to find out how they do it and then go home and get the Indians to do the same? I mean, think about it. South Korea was half as well off as India, and then by 1980, they're 4 times higher than India. Wouldn't you think India would say, hell, we need to go to Singapore, or we need to go to Korea, find out what's going on over there in Seoul. So basically, techniques shrouded in mystery clearly have value to the purveyor of investment advice. After all, what witch doctor has ever achieved fame and fortune by advising take 2 aspirins? But a lot of this technique shrouded in mystery is obviously because when you're in the information business, you sell information. A lot of these people don't want to tell you exactly what you need to do, or you're not going to pay them their money. They need money to survive like you need money to survive. But I'm telling you, in-office consulting is an investment. I don't do it because I don't have the personality for it. I go in there, I do $2.4 million a year, and there'll be some dentist doing $200,000, and I'm trying to explain it to him, and all he does is argue with me. And I'm just like, I don't have the personality for it. Usually I want to throw him against the wall, punch him a few times, shoot him, free his wife, free the staff, have the staff hire an associate. I mean, come on. People always overestimate how complex business is. Jack Welch of GE says, look, it isn't rocket science. It's one of the world's most simple professions. Most global businesses only have 3 or 4 critical competitors, and you know who they are. And there aren't many things you can do with the business. Not as if you're choosing among 2,000 options. I mean, it's best product, best price, best service. And the other thing is do your own math. Dentists will go to a Gordon Christian seminar 8 hours every year and listen to Gordon stand up there all day long saying, Healy molar, where's it 15 microns a year? Tetric flow, where's it 16 microns a year? Panavi 21, bonds at 21 megapascals. And all day long, he's just sitting there rattling off all this quantitative data about dentistry. There's not a non-dentist in the room. Your staff, assistant receptionists, and hang themselves before it's half over. He attracts about 1,000 people wherever he goes. I mean, if he went to Salina, Kansas, he'd attract 1,000 people. And then I take the whole class after he's done, as they're coming out the back door and saying, how many new patients you have last month? I don't know. What's your fixed cost versus variable cost? I don't know. What do you have to do a day to enter the problem zone? I don't know. What do you know, doctor? Well, I have my wife do that, and she sends it to the accountant. You don't sub out your brain. If you're blind, you can get a seeing eye dog. If you can't walk, you can get a wheelchair. But if you don't have a brain, okay, you're useless. Okay, you're a vegetable. You're an imbecile. You're a moron. You're an idiot. Do your own math. You got Peachtree Accounting. Practice Outlook is the only one of the computer dental practice management softwares that actually has an accounting package merged in there. The thing that just gripes me the most about Dentrix, EagleSoft, and SoftDent. I use SoftDent in my office, but I don't even like to recommend them because they hack me off. I mean, all they are is glorified insurance and billing machines. I have to do my bills, my payables and receivables on Peachtree, and so all that data is there. Then I got SoftDent doing all the scheduling data and all the insurance information. Well, why in the world would you have one part of your information in your Peachtree or Quicken or QuickBooks or Microsoft Money, and then the other half of your brain in SoftDent, Dentrix, or EagleSoft? I mean, I can't believe we're at the year 2000, and there's only one company, Practice Outlooks, that actually merges the accounting and the practice management software into one. But that's why I'm really trying to seduce Dentrix, EagleSoft, and SoftDent to run to Peachtree, who I've already talked to. They've already agreed that they'll give their allow their programmers the data they need to hook into their modules so that dentistry, maybe by the year 2002, maybe might have the complete practice management information system. Quicken or QuickBooks Pro isn't that bad, but it is very amateur. Microsoft Money is very primitive. The only accounting software out there to do every single thing I learned how to do in MBA school and everything you would need to do to run a company of at least $10 million is only on Peachtree. Quicken and QuickBooks is a different market segment. They're going after the mom home doing her bills. You need all your information to define your strategy between your customers, suppliers, employees, substitute dentists, the competition, to frame how you think about your own dental office. There's buyers, retailers, wholesalers, manufacturers, resource owners. It's nothing in this that we're talking about is hard to do. I have a lot of dentists that ask me if they should vertically integrate more of the value chain, like maybe bring their lab in-house. The only time you want to, the 4 reasons to vertically integrate your value chain is to guarantee supplies from a hold up on price, to guarantee access to supplies, to acquire intellectual capital or innovate some intellectual capital, or to lower the transaction cost. I see none of these items applying to dentistry. You have access to supplies, you got guarantee to supplies. There's not a manufacturer out there, I don't care if it's Bisco, Dent Supply, I don't care if it's I don't care if it's Bob Gibson's Denmat, I don't care if it's Dan Fisher's Ultradent. Every one of these companies tells you everything you know about their products. There's no reason that you need to make your own compositor, make your own crown and bridge. The only reason I think you should bring in a crown and bridge lab is if the customer sees value added. The customer doesn't know when they're getting root canal. They don't see any value if whether you do your own payroll or sub it out to ADP. They don't see any value if your wife does the accounting or a bookkeeper does the accounting. If the patient can't see the difference of having something vertically integrated, then it doesn't mean anything. But I think with the Crown and Bridge Lab, when you have a lab tech in the office, and they can add a contact, custom stain, give you the feedback you need after you give them an impression, they pour it up, and then show you how hard it is to read the margin. I think a lab tech is going to be growing, especially as you get like Siemens Cerac 2. We're now for $76,000. These things will mill out your standard bread and butter PFM on the middle class. It won't do exquisite cosmetics. It's not going to replace Concept, Targus, Vectorus, inlays on laser, anterior veneers. Gosh, don't put that stress on a CAD-CAM machine. But for your bread and butter molar PFM, it'll mill it out, make it a one appointment. It's kind of like Lee Optical Eye Master. Glasses in just about an hour. The percent of dentists and specialists who employ dental laboratory technicians are not very high. Full-time lab techs are only in 4% of dental offices. 2% of dental offices have a part-time, and 94% have 0. Now, specialists are different. 12% of specialists have a full-time lab tech in their office, either making the orthodontic appliances or prosthodontic crown and bridge. And I really think that the crown and bridge lab, it's either going to be a CAD-CAM or, you can make Targus Vector's crowns. The technology in crown and bridge has replaced the castings, the investments, the torches, the sand, the blasting. It used to be a very primitive technology. It's getting so high-tech. We're still early in the line. I think Cerac 2 is a buy now, and I think a lab man coming in for the most part is a buy now, because I think your customers really think it's impressive when they get a custom stain on anterior, add a contact. I think it's really good for the dentist to have a lab tech come back and say, this impression, you sent it to me, but I think it sucks. The patient's still in the chair. I'm not pouring this up. You can read it. I can't read it. I'm the one that needs to make the crown. So I think it's very good feedback. That's very good. And that's called vertical integration. Horizontal integration is when you're McDonald's, you decide to just horizontally stamp out 12,000 of them horizontally. Vertical integration is when, I got you in the grocery store, I might as well try to get some more money out of your purse by doing some of your banking, your bakery, your hardware, your gardening supplies, your pharmacy supplies. I've got you at a location. Let me see how much I can extract out of your pocket. Peter Drucker says, and if you haven't read Peter Drucker, he's the guy who put the word management in the Webster's Dictionary, by gosh, right after World War II. He's still alive. I've talked to him on the phone a couple of times. He's just a hell of a sweet guy, deaf, very old now. When you call him up, it's always, what? Speak up. Very matter of fact. He's just a genius. His last book, Managing in a Time of Great Change by Peter Drucker, is unbelievable. But he talks about his 5 deadly business sins. Number 1, do not worship high profit margins and premium pricing. You still got all these practice management people that think the higher the quality, the more expensive it should cost. That is completely butt backward how free enterprise works. Every year, the VCRs and compact discs and stereos are higher quality for a lower price. Do not misprice a new product by charging what the market will bear. Because if you sit there and say, I'm going to do a veneer for $1,000 a tooth, and whenever you do one, say you make $500 a profit, what if you only do one case every 2 months? Well, you only made, upper 10 veneers, you only made $5,000. If you would have priced it at $600 a tooth, and maybe only made $200 a profit, you might have done a case every week. So if you want to, if you're looking at the total profit dollars, you're going to lose most of them by premium pricing. Don't worship high profit margins. Try to extract the least amount out of the most for a bigger basket of money than trying to get all your money out of one person. Do not use cost plus profit equals price, because price is the number one determinant of whether they're going to buy it or not based on their own individual insurance and needs if it's a need, but if it's a want, it'll be tied to a cash flow. Try to use price that sells the product minus the profit you need to equal your budget. How do you know if you can afford to pay a lab man $75 for a crown or $150 a crown? Well, first you got to tell me, in your area, what are you going to sell a crown for? If you sit there and a PPO says we're only going to give you $500 for a crown, then you subtract the profit you need, then you arrive at a budget that says, okay, I've only got $65 for a lab bill. Well, it's price minus profit equals budget. Nobody, look at Taco Bell. If you try to make the best taco and then slap on profit, and then someone comes up to Taco Bell and you'll say, yeah, that's $7.50 for 2 tacos. How many people say, I'm not paying $7 for 2 tacos at Taco Bell's? Hell, I can go to a sit-down Mexican restaurant and get a bowl of chips and a waiter and a silverware and the hell with this. So you take the price at what's going to sell minus the profit to arrive at your budget. That's doing it forward thinking. Start with the budget in mind. No, I've never met a dentist once, other than myself, who I could walk in their office on December 15th and see the budget for the following year. You just wing it month to month, month to month. Do not slaughter tomorrow's opportunities on the altar yesterday. And number 5, don't feed your problems and starve opportunities. That's what I see in continuing ed. You'll see somebody spending 6 weeks of continuing ed on TMJ, and I'll look at their billing from last year. I'll say, okay, last year you had $500,000. 0.5% was from TMJ, yet it's 99% of your continuing ed. And then I'll sit there and say, well, here's your real problems. You had a lot of sensitivity from composites. Why didn't you do LVI with Dickerson or UFP with Hornbrook and Dorfman? And once again, they're feeding their problems and they're starving opportunities, okay? So what is the difference between leadership and management? Management gets you to change your behavior with force, manipulation, and coercion. Leadership gets you to change your behavior without force. One of the most proudest things I am, my boys are 3, 5, 7, and 9. I always looked at my 4 boys as I got 4 boys in baby CEO school. I've never laid a hand on one of them. I've never slapped them, never spanked them. When I'm at the grocery store and I see a 35-year-old mother swatting her 2-year-old kid on the butt, I'm thinking, oh, that's good. That's good. You're 35, it's 2, and you got to beat him to get him to change his behavior shift. That's not a reflection on the child. It's a reflection on that you're an idiot. The smartest, most successful people I've ever met in my life never had a hand laid on them once by their parents, because if your parent is so pig ignorant that to get you to change your behavior, they got to use force, manipulation, coercion, and start beating on you. It's kind of like when an employee comes in late and you're giving them the pink slip and you're going to put it in their file. People, if that's where you're at in management, you don't even know what you're doing. Look at the real leaders. Look at people like Gandhi. Gandhi could get you to change your behavior, and you never even met the guy. Some Ronald Reagan could make you feel patriotic, or Louis Rukeyser. And look at the football coaches. That's the best one. Look at just some of the greatest football coaches that ever lived. And you look at those guys. Why could these coaches get their front line to block like they were trying to hold a lion off their own mother? And another coach is out there and everybody wants a water break and everybody's got an injury. There are coaches out there that can get their players to play football with broken fingers, sprained ankles, black eyes, and no sleep. And when I was in high school, I remember I went out for one sport, quit in a week. Remember I went out another sport, quit in a couple weeks. And then I went in this wrestling. And this coach was so good, Coach Hagar. And my gosh, just to make him proud, I used to get up, run 5 miles every morning for school. He wasn't even there. He didn't need force, manipulation, coercion. He wasn't there to see if I was there, checking me off. It was about leadership. It was getting me to get my butt out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, run 5 miles, just so you wanted to win, not even for yourself. You wanted to win to make Coach Hagar proud. I never worked harder for anybody in my life than trying to, you wanted to win your wrestling match so bad just to see how proud he was. I mean, that's leadership. That's coaching. That's your parenthood. 2 + 2 = 5. Corporate strategy. Make everyone play at a higher level. So basically, knowledge plus decisive action is basically going to be your successful action process. Tony Robbins, which is, if you haven't gone through his program, you're cheating yourself blind. He lectures all day. He's got the 30-day program, which this is kind of like the same format. He's my idol. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. It needs followed up with decisive action. If you haven't seen Tony take your whole office and run, in fact, do the $2,000 course where it's a couple days long, you do the firework, be one of the highlights of the last 10 years of your life. The 3 major business strategies are market differentiation, cost leadership, and target market. Now let's break it down one by one. Market differentiation means you can differentiate your product from someone else's. Okay, what's the opposite of market differentiation? A commodity. What's a commodity? Bushel of wheat, pound of corn, pound of cement. I mean, if someone says, I got a pound of gold, and I want $1,000 for it, and someone else says, I got a pound of gold, and I want $2,000 for it, why would anybody pay $2,000 if you get $1,000? I mean, if you can't differentiate your gold from his gold, it's like a bushel of wheat. A bushel of wheat, you grow it for $3 a bushel, you can sell all that you can grow into the marketplace. You go to the market and charge $3.01, no one will buy it. And people say, well, why should I pay a penny more for your bushel than his bushel? And you say, well, mine was made with all John Deere farm equipment, and all my farmers wore Nikes and had Delta dental insurance. Everybody's like, who the hell cares? It's a commodity. A commodity is something that can't be differentiated from its competitors, so they only compete on best price. You cannot defend best price with beating the crap out of your profit margins and then turning around and beating the crap out of your employees. And then your suppliers. You got to beat up everyone. Those are all the industries that are always having strikes. You notice that west of the Mississippi River, you never have a strike? When's the last time Hewlett-Packard, Intel, Motorola, or Microsoft had a strike? You ever notice that every strike is back east? That's because those are all old industries. Those are from the Industrial Revolution. Those are steel, cars, commodities. Okay? Market differentiation is Nike, Coca-Cola, McDonald's. You go into McDonald's and you know your Big Mac isn't a Whopper. It's not an Arby's roast beef sandwich. You buy Coca-Cola. You know it's different than a Dr. Pepper. The second one is cost leadership. That's a tough one to defend. That's the hardest one to go after. And the third one's target market. Target market is when you realize that your demographics have something going on different than other people's. Like take Arizona. We got Safeway. Safeway carries the same groceries in Arizona, Safeway stores, they do as the Safeway stores in Detroit or Kansas. Well, don't they know that Arizona is 20% Hispanic? What's the name of the grocery store chain in Arizona? You guys know that targets the Hispanic community? Bash's. Yeah, Eddie Bash. He knows the top 100 items selling in Mexico City. He's got them in his Bash's grocery stores, and most Hispanics hit Bash's because they accept that target market. Now, market differentiation. Can you differentiate your product or service from your competitors? The only way you can do that in dentistry is a courteous, long-term staff, tooth-colored fillings, and same-day appointments, availability and accessibility, and dental financing, okay? If you say you bill $1,600, need it all today, they're going to run. If someone else says it's $100 a month for 16 months, they're going to do it, okay? I don't want you to be the banker, but I want you to get financing companies to do it. There's a ton of them. Anybody can do a black 50% mercury, dark, dingy-looking filling. So if all fillings are dark and dingy, hell, why not just compete on price and they all get the cheapest fillings? That's why HMOs always advertise free fillings, free cleanings for exams. That's not a Pankey Institute exam. That's not a Peter Dawson exam. That's not a composite filling. That's not a gold filling from Bill Strupp or a composite filling from Hornbrook, Dickerson, Rosenthal, Ross Nash. And that's not a same-day appointments. Well, hell, if you got to wait 3 weeks, might as well call around. And that's what I say. Are you a 2,100 dentist still doing amalgams? Or are you a 2,300 dentist? If you're a 2100 dentist, 2120 is a 2-service deciduous, 2130 is a 3-service deciduous, 2140 is an amalgam 1-service permanent. If you're going to do dark, dingy, 50% mercury silver fillings, you're going to be competing on price. When you compete on price, you're going to lose your profit margins. Then you're going to beat up your staff. And it's a tough business. I'm glad I'm not in it. 2300 dentists. We don't do anything that's not tooth colored. I mean, end of story. Market differentiation always commands the highest profit margin of all 3 major business strategies. It's the only area where legendary investor, billionaire Warren Buffett will put his money. Coke, Disney, See's Chocolates. Cost leadership. Do you have a cost competitive advantage over your competitors? Do you take their dental benefits? Do you have lower prices? If you want that, I'm glad. A lot of publicly traded dental companies are going there. I'm glad they're doing it so the government doesn't have to step in to correct a market failure. The number 3 business strategy is target market. Do you target a specific group of people that have special unmet needs, wants, and desires? Does your office speak a foreign language? Does your office have a diversified staff? I go to the Census Bureau. They got the entire United States Census Bureau on one CD. I look at my zip code, 85044, 85048, 85040, et cetera, et cetera. And according to my data, 10, 12% of the houses within 5 miles of my area speak Spanish as a primary language. I always have a receptionist that speaks Spanish. I always have I have a hygienist that was born in Mexico. I got a receptionist that was born in the Caribbean. Hell, they speak fluent English, and I've never understood a word they said. But I'll tell you what, when you were born in their country and you come here, you love the fact that you've got a receptionist that speaks Spanish, a hygienist born in Mexico. What is perfect price elasticity or inelasticity? Price elasticity is your commodities. Remember, we're talking about a bushel of corn. Say corn goes for $4. $4 or less, you can sell all of your corn into the market. $4.01, your quantity that you can sell snaps back to zero because you can't differentiate why anybody should pay a penny more for your product. Okay, in an unregulated commodity business, the company must lower its cost to competitive levels or face extinction. It's the worst place to be. You either compete on price with cost leadership or quality with market differentiation. Price inelasticity is when you can raise your price $100 and it doesn't affect any of your sales. For instance, say you had colon cancer, and say that you had colon cancer, and Pfizer had a pill for $500 where 6 out of 10 people treated live 5 years, and Merck had a pill for colon cancer where 7 out of 10 people lived 5 years. Would you pay $300 more for a 1 in 10 greater chance of living 5 years? Would you pay $301? Would you pay $302? At what price would you say, hell no, I'm not paying a penny more, it's just my rear end, I don't care if it falls out on the sidewalk, it's just a big stinky thing, and I'm not paying $1 for my sigmoid colon. And you know what economists always say? They always say, what's the price of life? They always say, okay, if you were guaranteed to die at sundown tonight, and someone had a pill, Merck had a pill or Pfizer had a pill, say you take this pill, you will live exactly 1 year, and no matter what, you will die a year from tonight. It's either die tonight or take this pill and die a year from tonight. How much would you pay for that pill? Think about it. Think about it. You know all your value, you know all your worth. What would you pay to live a year? These are what we call inelastics, where you can move the price and it doesn't change the quantity of things sold. So look at your strategic environment, figure out your competitive strategy, differentiate your product with a long-term staff, available extended hours, expertise with your FAGD, your MOGD, your diplomat, international congress, oral implantology, your location, retail intersections, accessibility, cosmetic, natural tooth colors, warranties. When you don't do that, and then you're a commodity, it's tough to make any money. Customers first. Get your staff to be customer-centered. Get everyone to quit getting the front office to focus on what the assistants did or didn't do, and the assistants focusing on what the front office did or didn't do. You got to get everybody customer-centered, customer-focused. You walk into a hospital with a broken foot, they tell you to walk 100 yards down there to get an x-ray. You get your damn x-ray, and they tell you to walk 200 yards that way to an orthopedic surgeon. Then they tell you got to come back tomorrow and go to another building for your damn surgery. And then when you're done with the surgery, they give you a stupid prescription and tell you to drive 5 miles down the road to some hinky-dinky Walgreens, stand in line with the helpless one-eyed mutations to wait 30 minutes for a pill. Why can't somebody put that in one place like Lee Optical Eye Masters? You go in, you get your prescription, You pick out your lens, they mail it out, you get glasses in just about an hour. That's customer focused. We still got dentistry that is provider focused, and you need to get yourself customer focused, like Lee Optical, like Eye Masters, like a dentist who can do, you're in a small town where 45% of America live without any of the 8 specialties. You tell me you don't do ortho, you can't pull wisdom teeth, you can't do pedo, you don't like kids, you don't like perio, and you want to know why these people see 5, 6, 7 different dentists in their lifetime? And if you're selling service, your price becomes inelastic. Did you know a 10% fee decrease means you have to do 53% more dentistry for the same net profit? And you want to go into cost leadership? A 20% fee decrease means you have to do 222% more dentistry for the same net profit. In contrast, a 10% fee increase means you can make the same money doing 74% of the dentistry you're doing, and a 20% fee increase means you can do the same profit doing only 59% of the dentistry you're doing, and that's why specialists make $70,000 more a year, because you're charging $500 for a root canal, they're charging $700. You're charging $3,500 for ortho, they're charging $4,000. You're charging $89 for a pulpotomy, the pedodontist charging $149. You're charging $89 to pull out a wisdom teeth, the oral surgeon's charging $189. If you would get the fees to the market segmentation specialists in your backyard, you're going to make a lot more money on a lot less patients, and that's when you can slow down and give them the service they need. You can concentrate on customer service, communication, giving them a video before it starts, giving them warranties, instructions, patting their back, doing your we care calls at night. If you're running around on rollerblades, and you got all your chairs going at least one time during the day, and you go home at night and you're exhausted and you're a doctor, and you're only making $100,000 a year, my God, something's wrong. You do all that and you're a doctor, you should be making $200,000 a year. Your pricing's not right. So just replay this tape 3, 4 more times, and remember the balanced scorecard approach. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Balanced scorecard links your mission strategy into objective measures that can be measured, measures as tools to articulate business strategy versus control, typically aimed at the strategic business unit. People, there's not many ways to play this game. I mean, it comes down to just concentrating. It comes from a love of the game. If you had as much fun as I did today, you had a fun day. Thanks for day 4. I'll see you tomorrow for day 5.